In a recent blog, I shared some news with you regarding the versions and the settings on the new online modern sites. So just to recap that, this is day 223. I spoke about the version updates, and what's important to know is that all libraries will be set to retain a minimum of 100 major versions, and that you actually can't disable that anymore in future. So that's important to know. And of course, let's quickly just go through how versioning works. Because versioning will in future now be set up by default, you will know that you'll have at least 100 major versions in your library. Of course, any old libraries at the moment could still be disabled. If I want to see the previous versions of a document, I can just go to the document in the library. I can click on the drop down and I can go to version history. Now in version history, I am going to see the dates that changes were made to the document, as well as who made the changes, and you'll also see if the file size has changed. If check-in and check-out is enabled, you'll also be able to see comments if the users add comments when they've made changes. Of course, it won't show me what changes inside the physical document, but it actually shows when the changes took place. It does track any changes that happened around metadata on the document, so that's pretty cool. Now, any of these I can then, of course, go and I can view the previous version of the document and it'll bring it up. I can restore the previous version, it'll keep the old version and restore a new copy, or I can delete the versions. Now, let's just quickly talk about the versions again. So what we actually want is we want to have a document on SharePoint and then to edit the document right here, not upload a new document with a new document name every time. If the document name is different, it won't replace the current version. And also understand that if I had to save this document as a PDF now, and it was versions.pdf, I still could upload it and it will not replace the other one. So if there's any difference in the file name, it won't replace the document. If the version or if the name is the same, it'll actually replace the document. So a lot of times I work offline on a document and then I just upload the new one. Once I'm done, it'll replace the new one as a version. That's great for compliance, but it's also great for risk management when it comes to maybe mistakes that happens on documents and you'll have to restore a previous one. Something that's important to remember about this as well is that users that has edit rights can obviously delete versions as well, and that might be a risk. So if you want to look at that, just go to the permissions of your site. So how do I get there? I'm going to go to site info from the landing page. So if you're, let's just see, if I'm on the landing page, I can go to site information, and from there I can obviously go to the site permissions as well. So if I go and look at the permission levels in SharePoint, and I've just opened one of them, if I look at the permission levels, I can actually see that one of the attributes on these permission levels is to view versions, but also to delete versions. So you could create a new permission level that cannot mess with the views, the versions at all, if that was necessary, especially when I think of libraries where we load policies and procedures and those type of things. That might be important to create a new level that actually cannot delete old versions. So versioning, definitely a very, very cool thing in SharePoint, is to help us to see previous versions of the document, of course, and of course as well, if I go to versions, and I just want to go back to that library. So let's very, very quickly just go to the library settings. If I go to the library settings on versioning settings, just to recap that, you'll see that this is where you'll set it up. So remember, in future, a rollout's going to come out that's going to make this by default that it's switched on. But there I can actually select major and minor versions, and or just major versions, and I can say how many versions it must keep. So when you use minor versions as well, you can actually publish in between to actually have version 1.1 or version 1.2, and then publish it to a major version. And then, of course, if you start looking at the versions, you can also switch on approvals, of course, which helps a lot. So, so versions, very cool thing to use. And I definitely hope that that'll help you a lot when it comes to your compliance and when it comes to just your risk management in general. If you have check-in, check-out enabled on your library, if the document doesn't get checked back in and you work on it for a couple of days, it will not build the new version. So please be very careful of that. So that's me in versions, and remember, you can switch it on lists as well. See you soon.